I'm going to talk a little bit about my capstone research thesis, which focuses on assessing the IDF's strategic readiness for a tunnel warfare campaign in Gaza. I'm an Italian student. I am enrolled in Crisis and Security Management Master in Leiden University. And my research focused primarily on devising a framework to define tunnel warfare and to understand what does it mean to successfully conduct a campaign to defeat enemies in the subterranean realm. So I focused a lot on Richmond's Barak Underground Warfare book, and I devised my own sort of framework, which is based on 2 points. The first one is detection, which later transforms into prevention, and then neutralization. So through this framework, I analyzed the Israeli army's readiness to counter asymmetric threat posed by Hamas through the tunnels. So I'm going to dive a little bit into the historical background. After the peace treaty with Egypt in 79, the Israeli withdrew from the Sinai, and therefore commodities and individuals would start to be smuggled by regular Palestinian civilians in response to the blockades. And later in 2007, they fell into the hands of Hamas, which started to implement them in strategic warfare techniques. So they increased the flow of steel and concrete, creating a long and sophisticated network of tunnels that the IDF nicknames Gaza Metro. I put this poster here, which is obviously military propaganda. It's from the IDS, which is basically a biased source, but it kind of gives a glimpse into the sheer size of this infrastructure and how much money, how much material went into it, and how much also Iran helped building these structures. So at that point, the IDF still thought of tunnels as economic and one-dimensional, which sort of led to the kidnapping of soldier Gilal Shalit in 2006, because they sort of undervalued the value of tunnels as a versatile instrument of guerrilla warfare. And it was only after August 2014 that Israel envisioned the tunnel as a priority threat, which required a unique strategic approach. And this was done through Operation Protective Edge. So I put this image, which is basically a screenshot of docu-post on Reuters. And it's very interesting because it sort of gives an image, a depiction of how the tunnels of Hamas are built. You can see they have electricity and communication wires. The panel walls are reinforced with steel rebar, which makes it very difficult for guided bomb units with penetrating ammunition to break them. And they're also very narrow, which is used in close quarter combat, so you can just send a regular army. I'm going to talk a little bit about the techniques employed by the IDF. So in detection and neutralization, I wanted to talk about the brain, which is this laboratory created in 2016, which includes a vast assortment of mind ranging from personnel of the Ministry of Defense, geologists, intelligence officers, physicists, and combat theory writers. And its role is sort of to scan cavities and subterranean dynamics and improving mapping techniques. So its main role is detection. Then there's the Iron Spade, which is an underground version of the Iron Dome. For those who don't know it, the Iron Dome is basically the anti-missile system of Israel. And the Iron Spade aims at detecting the digging operations. It has specific sensors and is coupled with a smart wall, which sort of brings into being a series of engineering work, part of the project Zohar Hadrom, which means glow of the south. Um, so this barrier sort of stretches for 65 kilometers. It has three components: a 30-meter deep underground barrier, which we're going to talk about later, how it doesn't work because the tunnels built by Hamas can go as down as 70 meters. It has also a 6-meter wall and a sensory system to monitor activity. Another techniques employed by the IDF was flooding. So to sort of neutralize the effectiveness of Gaza Metro, the IDF has been injecting high flow seawater in terror tunnels built by Hamas under the Strip. It was a plan that was confirmed in January 2024, but already in 2023, seawater pumps had been built near Gaza's Al-Shati refugee camp. And the main risks are that not only it doesn't destroy Hamas tunnels, it might damage them but not neutralize them completely, but also it most certainly contaminate an aquifer lying between Gaza, Israel, and Egypt, which supplies 80% of water in Palestinian territory. So it worsens already harrowing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And finally, I wanted to talk about the mo ground incursions, which is basically going there in the tunnels physically through the army. And Israel has developed its own tunnel rats. In Vietnam, the US had these soldiers with which were basically um, specialized soldiers which would go down with a flashlight and a small gun to counter the Viet Cong's tunnels in Vietnam. And the Israelis sort of developed their own tunnel rats through the Yahalom unit. Yahalom stands for diamond, and it is part of the Israeli Combat Engineering Corps, and they basically do ground incursions. They're specialized in detecting, evacuating, and destroying tunnel. And its size grew from 400 to 900 specialized soldiers after Operation Protective Edge in 2014, but it can still be implemented in a better way, and we're going to talk about this later. So the Yahalom unit is basically a merger of two subunits. One being the Samur Commando, which is dedicated to finding and destroying tunnels and hidden weapon caches, and the Yael Demolition Unit, and the other one comprises the SAP Explosive Ordnance Disposal Company. All its operations are classified, and the ground operators greatly rely on unmanned vehicles because, as we explained, the spaces are very narrow, so it's very difficult to send man force in the tunnels themselves. And they also rely on the OCET's canine unit, and they operate with the support of ultralight throwable individual robotic intelligence system, which is basically a small robot defined by a Tel Aviv company called Roboteam. So their job is basically to locate entrances, sniff out explosives, and attack armed individuals. And the last but not the least technique deployed by the Israeli army to counter the tunnels is probably the most used. It's the most deployed first line strategy, which is basically bombing. And as we have seen, most of Israel's arsenal comes from the US. They have guided bomb units, GBU-39, which can penetrate a meter of concrete, so not enough to destroy the tunnels. They have the MK-84, the GBU-28, which was a bomb that the US had developed at the end of the Gulf War, through which they hoped to kill Saddam Hussein in its bunkers, but now it's used to counter the tunnel in Palestinian territory. So my research, I did my own sort of tactical assessment. It's obvious that bombing as deployed by the Israeli Air Force faces several challenges that undermine its effectiveness because Hamas's subterranean network has been built at varying depths, some located very far underground, up to 70 meters. So locating and targeting the tunnels is a significant challenge as they're hidden within very highly populated areas, homes, schools, hospitals, and it's nested in one of the territory with the highest population densities in the world because in Gaza you have about 1,800 people per square mile. And this bombing campaign that Israel has been conducting has not only costed a lot, about $2 billion, but also it has caused an enormous amount of indiscriminate civilian deaths and has generated a set of questions in terms of legitimacy. So in conclusion, bunker buster ammunition are ineffective for tunnels deeper than 30 meters, and Hamas tunnels have been recorded to extend down to 70 meters of depth. And even if the bomb reaches actually the tunnel, the shells will only destroy tunnel openings or vertically damage underground structure without effectually neutralizing it, because a tunnel, even if destroyed, can be reused several times. And I included this very interesting quote from Emil Wiesman, which is a British Israeli architect, which is the more efficient and destructive capacity of the Israeli Air Force has become, the deeper the resistance has had to retreat below ground. And I find this very fitting to this topic. And I also included an extract from a work of Majd Abu Amer, which is a scholar. And he offers an interesting framework to understand the Israelis' limited success in destroying and detecting tunnels in the Gaza border. The first point being that the Israeli strategy is aimed at detecting incomplete tunnels instead of operational ones, and they are unable to reach ones and detect tunnels that are under a certain depth, so they cannot work with tunnels that are under 30 meters, and therefore the iron spade, ground routers, penetrating ammunitions are basically techniques that are all ineffective. And also, there's a sort of dysfunctional focus on cross-border tunnels that reach into Israeli territory, while those that are within Gaza remain completely untouched, and those are the ones that are potentially dangerous and can extend into Israeli territory. And another interesting point is linked to Gaza's structural nature itself because of the sandy soil that muffles the sound of drilling and hinders the work of sensors. So all the monitoring system are basically ineffective because of how like sandy the terrain is in Gaza. So the monitors don't pick up the sound. So just to close up this part of my research, because of the sheer scale of the subterranean network embedded in Gaza's densely built city, it is basically impossible for the IDF to prevent all ambushes and attacks carried out by the Islamic militia. And we have proof of that because in the 17th of October 2023, shortly after the attack of the 7th of October, a cross-border tunnel was discovered going undetected through all monitoring system, and it was the largest ever found, about 4 kilometers, and it could even accommodate vehicles. So Israel ultimately cannot apply a high volume destructive strategy and neutralize Hamas tunnels by bombing them, and also not only because it is illegitimate, because it causes an indiscriminate amount of civilian deaths, but also because the tunnels themselves are built to resist. So the Yahalom units, according to my research, and the Specialized Engineering Corps are Israel's biggest assets, not only because they're strategically effective in rendering the tunnel usable, but also because the operations are classified and less predictable. So the biggest investments should be concerned on tier one units such as the Yahlum. Um, Another issue that I raise in my research and that I find very interesting is that there is a need for a reevaluation of Hamas' capability as a violent non-state actor. Hamas has developed a very particular intelligence system to gather information on Israeli activities. It has a forward observation and border security system called the Murabitun, which consists of armed militias observing IDF movements, so basically forward observation. And it also has been posing several problems in relations to covert operations. There's already been proved that covert operations can be exposed by Hamas operatives, such as Operation Spearhead, where numerous IDF soldiers were killed because of an ambush by the Al Qassam Brigade. So this intelligence activity grew a lot since after Hamas seized control of the Gaza Strip and became more institutionalized and sort of developed its own security apparatus based on the Military Intelligence Department, the MID, and the Governmental Internal Security Force. So the uses of tunnels is also part of the counterintelligence effort. That's why it's fitting also to my research, because Hamas uses it to evade the GUN threat, so counterintelligence posed by the Israeli army, which regularly monitors the Palestinian theater through drones. So hiding in the tunnels, they basically become invisible. And at the same time, it also is part of an intelligence efforts that is more on the attack side rather than on the defense, because the intelligence efforts are always very much supported by Iran, which offered expertise in the manufacturing of drones for Hamas and basically offers a lot of GEOINT capabilities for a violent non-state actor. So yeah, this slide sort of gives an image on the
Could you please the complete because we're out of time?
Yes, I'm absolutely done. I'm just wanted to say that this slide gives a glimpse into the size of the tunnels in Gaza, and I hope you found my research interesting, and I wanted to thank you so much for this opportunity. So, and I'm open for any kind of questions. So, thank you so much.